live. It says going live. 1, 2, 3, you're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you with my co-host David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for coming.
Greetings and blessings to you, Robert, and to all of our friends and neighbors out there. We thank you this Tuesday afternoon and hope you're doing well. And as always, we greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. So hope you're doing well out there. And we do hope that you like the information that we send you. Robert's got some good video tonight. That's a second part of last week's show. So if you didn't catch that, then you have to go back and watch that one.
Yes, actually. I've been reading a book, and it's about the Arapaho. And I came across a section, and this is probably going to be the following weeks or so ahead, because, you know, I like to read ahead and study. So I've been studying, and I want to know something, and you might be the guy to tell me. And okay, so the guy, well, this is the way it is. So the guy was talking about names, right? And how and I knew some of this, but I didn't know it all. And tell me if I'm wrong, or if you knew this and how it comes about. And the guy was saying, okay, when you're a child, or you're just born, your grandparents or people, neighbors would come over, and the wisest, oldest people, whatever, they would give you a good, strong name. They would pick a name for the child. Then you would grow up, and at a certain point in your life, you would do something brave or do something whatever, and you'd get a new name. You would pick a new name, and sometimes you could get somebody else's name. Okay, and you say, you know, I want to be, you know, runs with water because, you know, I ran in a stream away from the enemies or something like that, right? Well, then, you know, later on, you stole some horses, and now you want to be runs with horses because you stole those horses and you ran away with them, right? So you change your name again, and so forth and so on. And sometimes you take on the names of other brave warriors because it's a good, strong name that brought good luck in battle or whatever from somebody else. You know, somebody else who's old would give up their name and give it to you, and then you could have that name, and then they would take on another name, right? So as, you know, the thing progresses, I mean, you could have, you know, 10 names in your life, you know, kind of thing. Now,
potentially, yeah.
Potentially, you know, I mean, upwards and onwards kind of thing, or you could just keep your name too. But, you know, and he was talking about that. But when it came to the white man coming and keeping census and records and taxes and things like that, the white man kind of put a kibosh to that and said, listen, you're going to pick one name. That's going to be it. You know, no more changing your name, because you can't come out here looking for, you know, runs with horses. And then next year you're, no, I'm not runs with horses. I'm, you know,
Buffalo Patty.
Yeah, I'm flies with the birds, you know. Yeah. Is this true? What do you know about this stuff?
It depends on the tribe.
Okay.
And it depends on the locale.
Okay.
But just as I am David Null, but I have adopted the name, or the name was kind of sort of given to me, you know, Hawkeye Two Feathers.
Yeah.
And so for years, folks called me Hawkeye because I could find stuff. And then Two Feathers came along later on. But from so that would be sort of an example of, you know, you've got your given name, and then later on in life something happens, and, you know, so I'm still the same person, but Hawkeye Two Feathers, you know, I'm more the shaman type in that versus David Null, who was the engineer and the guy, and you know, so but so life changes, and sometimes so do names. But so much like nicknames.
Mhm.
So there was there's an old Indian joke, and it depends on the Indian that you tell the joke to. And they say, so grandfather, the little child is asking, and he says, grandfather, how do you give out names? And he looked at the young grandchild and he said, why do you ask two dogs hunting? Because supposedly when they flew open the door to the teepee, the first thing they saw, or maybe some kind of totem, or the weather, or it was springtime, or flowers, something that instigated their original first name.
Mhm.
And so sometimes when I was adopted into the tribe of powwow goers, I had an incident with bathroom. And so they had seen me during the night running back and forth from the teepee to the restroom, back and forth and back and forth. And I woke up the next morning, they had already named me. And my nickname was Man Who Runs at Both Ends. And they shortened it to Running Man. So for several powwows that I went to, those who knew me at like one of the first or second powwows, they were like, hey, Running Man, how you doing? And so sometimes, so that would have given me three names, David, Hawkeye, and Running Man. So
Yep.
there's an example of, just for me, how things in life would have given you nicknames. So they would say, well, how you doing, Running Man? Well, nobody would have known that most folks call me Hawkeye because it's an inside joke.
Yeah.
But everybody knows me by David or Hawkeye and the inside joke, Running Man.
I see.
So things happen in life, and those are just my own examples of how I had, ended up with, a couple of nicknames going along,
Yeah, I get it now. And see, that's the thing is like the guy was saying, he was talking about like if you were growing up or you had bad times and you wanted to change your life. And this is what struck me. It's not so much the nicknames, because I think in some way or another, most of us have all had a nickname. And here being on YouTube, we've all nicknamed ourselves because a lot of us are on there, we got all these people in here. Most of these are nicknames. They nickname themselves. Musgrave Griffin, Scotty Boy, Mark the Ark Spark, nicknames. Elderberry, we know who you are. Book 33.
Witchy Moon.
Witchy Moon, yes, exactly. All of these people have names, but they're not that name. Maybe part of their name, but you could become. And sometimes, being on YouTube, they rename you. You rename yourself, or you know what I'm saying. You can rename yourself every so many days. And I know, like when I did, I used to be on the CB all the time. Back in the day, the Dukes of Hazzard days. Anyway, I used to go by Shoestring, and when I was a little kid, they called me Little Grasshopper. And that was so went back, and then I changed the Shoestring, and then and so forth and so on, until I found what I like. But they were talking about how if you had bad luck, your life didn't go quite right, they could have a ceremony and you would change your name, or somebody else would give you their name that had better luck. And then you could go out from then on and you would pledge, I'm going to change my life. I'm not going to steal no more. I'm not going to do this no more. I'm going to quit drinking, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm going to be known by this name. And sometimes that helped people change their lives. And I thought about that and I thought, see, that's what's wrong with us. You know, we get labeled a lot of times as, oh, you're that you're Joe Blow, that no good rotten guy, you know. And then, well, you're always Joe Blow. You're never gonna be able to change your name and say, well, no, now I'm Gary Smith, not Joe Blow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, with it, you know, God, you know, God forbid, you know, anybody that was a cousin or whatever to Adolf, you know, with their last name of Hitler. I mean, you know, you'd want to change that shit right away. You
Well,
know, I don't want to be
exactly.
associated. You know, I don't even know the guy, but you know, my last name is that, and so yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. See, like Musgrave Griffin, Jeannie, she says Mike is Musgrave, Jeannie is Griffin, and they're given names. But yeah, but you combine them to make a whole new name. And you know, that's how people know you, you know, on YouTube, you know, especially when I look at the name. I still know her as Jeannie, but I still see Musgrave Griffin in my head, and it registers differently. You know what I mean? Like Scotty Boy says, my nickname, Scotty Boy has been my nickname my whole life. But yeah, you know, but maybe his original, I wonder what's your original name, Scotty Boy? Scott, you know, or is it something on that order kind of thing? What did they properly name you? But see, you resonate with Scotty Boy, and not, and sometimes remember little Sarah Horton used to come on my show way back when. You know, one of, like, the first year I was on, Sarah Horton used to come on, right? And Sarah wasn't her name. Her name was actually Laura. She hated the word Laura. She liked to be Sarah. She renamed herself Sarah. She says, I resonate with that name. I like that name. I don't want to be Laura. I never wanted to be Laura. I hate that name. You see what I mean? That could ruin your whole life. And she says, when I changed my name to Sarah, everything improved. You know, my outlook on life, things I did, my health, everything changed.
Yep.
I was
Well,
like,
I don't
wow.
know about that, but when my sister and I went up to Ohio a couple of years back, and we actually met one of our brothers that nobody had knew existed until a couple of years ago. And so none of us knew, none of the brothers and sisters knew that he existed. And so he popped up one day, and you know, and it was like, oh my God, his original name was Dennis on his birth certificate. That his adopted parents renamed him Michael. And he said, you know, even though I never met my mother just as an infant, he said, I've never liked the name Michael. And he said, but I'm too old now to change my name to Dennis. So, but every time I call him, I always call him Dennis.
Yeah.
You know, so because, you know, that was his original name. And having not known until he went through adoption, the adoption records and so forth, did he find out what his real name was. So, but anyway, so, but that's another example of not feeling comfortable with your name. And for him, he didn't know why until he found the adoption papers. And then he went, oh my God, that's not really my name. My name's really Dennis. You know, okay.
Yeah. But, you know, so, but that's what I'm saying. You know, it's you know, what you feel comfortable, what resonates with you. I was supposed, Jeannie says I was supposed to be named Sarah after my grandma, but got named after Gene Hunt. Anyway, so, but that's the thing, you know, would you resonate? Well, I mean, would you resonate better as a Sarah? You know, I mean, we put too much emphasis on that name, and it's like putting you in a box, right? If your name is, you know, your parents, I see this a lot now. They name their kid Star Bright or something like that, you know, some goofy name, you know, some crazy, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Or you know, Zuzu, you know, or whatever.
Moonbeam,
Moonbeam,
you know,
yeah.
you know, Oh man, Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Moon something, or is it Moon? It might just be Moon Zappa, but anyway, yep. Yep. And for my own son, he named his son Xander. Now I'm all for, new names and stuff, but, okie dokie.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You name your kid something like that. You think, there's names with power and respect, and then there's names that just don't go anywhere. I mean, if you name your kid Mac, what do you expect that kid to become?
A truck.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean,
but Mac truck.
Yeah.
First thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, but I mean, is he going to become, president? There's President Mac, and no, you know what I'm saying? It's going to kind of limit you in where you go. I'm going to become a doctor. My name is Mac. That's almost
Mac the knife.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where Mac's going to get you. You're going to become a mob boss. I guess that couldn't be so bad. But anyway, let's move on with that. And I was just kind of curious about names and what you had, because that's been on my mind all week. And I think people should be able to rename themselves.
You can legally, but it costs you.
Yeah, but I think, if you like a nickname, like Scotty Boy says, everybody calls me Scotty Boy, or my friends call me Dumbass. So anyway, if you like Dumbass, go ahead, when I was a kid, my dad said, Jesus Christ, get over here. I thought, hell, I must be Jesus Christ. What the hell?
Then when you got older, you were going to be nailed to the cross.
No, yeah, but when I was younger, I got a big ass whooping.
Yeah.
I thought, boy, there comes all that pain and suffering. No wonder why he's hanging on the cross.
Cat of nine tails. Yeah.
He was a badass dude. Anyway, I had to throw that one in there, but he did. Anyhow, we got some good stuff. So I went to Fort Union. As you can see in the background, we had a teepee. They had a teepee there. This was quite the show. Tonight we're going to go with. We didn't do the blacksmith, did we? No. Okay, so
the only one we really did was the boat guy.
The boat guy.
And we had started on a guy, and you said no, we'll finish him later. And he was a Native American dressed in regalia.
Yeah.
And he was describing certain things.
Yes. So
you could go back to him and whatever else.
Okay. Yeah.
But the only one we saw all the way through was the boat guy.
Okay, and here we go.
And I still can't believe the size of that canoe.
Yeah, well,
And that was the small one.
That was the small one. Okay, here we go. And this guy is the blacksmith. So hope you guys enjoy.
Yourself.
Hi, I'm Tom Brown. We're at the historic Fort Union Trading Post, and I'm the on-site blacksmith for the 2023 Black Powder Rendezvous this year. This will be my 14th year here. I've got into blacksmithing. My uncle is a farrier, a horseshoer. He's been ferrying for 66 years. I lived with him when I was a kid, and I've been smithing since I was 7 years old. So a little over 45 years. So we do all kinds of stuff here. This is a traditional shop, and we use the forge and the bellows to heat up metal and bend it to different things. And traditionally at the fort here, we would have been making a lot of different things, hinges and gates and rails, and a lot of repairs. People would break their wagon and we'd have to repair it. So we'd fix different things, or if the wagon was in disrepair, the fort might buy it, and they would break the wagon apart and separate the wood to the carpenters, and we'd get the metal and recycle it into other things, either chisels and other wood product, or woodworking products for different carpenters and whatnot. And like these barrels, if we can look down here, these barrels, when these would get shipped upriver on on the paddle boats, and salted meats and other things would be shipped in here. And when they were empty, they'd break these barrels apart. Again, the carpenters would get the wood and we'd get the metal. And these metal bands would be made into trade arrowheads and forks and spoons, different types of cutlery, and other little knickknacks and trade goods. So we were one of the first recyclers, really. This is the 5th blacksmith shop here at the fort, and they just kind of kept moving us over from where it was originally in the trade house. So can't think anything else. Edit.
That's all right.
Edit.
All right. There's a lot of editing that goes into this.
Oh,
so
I know.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me about some of this equipment that
Sure.
you got here. What does this thing do? I know what that thing does, but other people won't.
So this is a crank style bellows. It has a big fan here, and as you turn this is a gear reduction set. The air comes into the fan here and blows out here. And we would use this to heat up the fire more. The one back here, this is a traditional bellows. It's like a big lung. So when you breathe, it breathes in air.
Okay, come on.
This is a 2-chamber bellows, so it sucks in air off the bottom, puts it in the top chamber, and then that air from the top gets blown down the tube into the fire to make it hotter.
Yeah, it did make it hotter, didn't it?
We traditionally, today we use coal, but traditionally here it would have been charcoal. There was actually charcoal kilns down by the river, and they were being making mostly cottonwood charcoal. There were some records on a few winters where they couldn't keep up demand, so they were actually using buffalo chips for fuel.
So they didn't just go out and mine the coal that's in the ground out here, did they?
No, they actually didn't find the big coal deposits until later on, even after Fort Buford was built. Yeah.
Huh, interesting. And then we got you.
Well, of course we have the anvils.
Now this is an important thing. I know this is important.
Yep. So, and there's different, this is a traditional London style anvil with a single horn. Sometimes you'll see twin horns, and those are like the Austrian German style anvils. This is a working face. This is a cutting face. This is a little softer, so if you get chisel marks in there, it's not a big deal. And this is the horn, so you'd bend scrolls and whatnot over that. And there's different things. The hardy hole, so you can put hardy tools like this. Cut off hardy is like a big chisel, and that way, if you needed to cut off metal while it was hot, you could just do it on there. We always take this out after we get done using it, because they are sharp and you could lose fingers that way, so that's something that always comes out. This little round hole is called a Pritchel hole, so if you needed to punch a hole while it was hot, you'd do it over this hole so that your punch wouldn't contact the face of the anvil. Of course, we have tongs, many different shapes and sizes of tongs to grip different types of metal. That was one of the first things that you would have learned to do as a smith, was make your own tongs. Because sometimes you'd make a pair of tongs, or maybe 2 or 3 pairs of tongs, just for one single project.
Interesting. I didn't know they made the tongs themselves. Yep. I thought that was like one of the, that qualifies you for a blacksmith because you went and bought the tongs.
Oh, no, yeah, a lot of times they're made, and it's one of my favorite things to do if you go to auctions, old auctions, and they're, especially if they're auctioning old blacksmith shops, and you look at all the tongs, you try to dissect what those tongs would have been used for, And here we've got traditional leg vise. They call it blacksmith vise or leg vise. It has a leg that goes down into the ground, and like a shop vise, the screw carries the load, so it has a lot of clamping strength. But if you hammer on the top, it can shear that screw, and then that's why these leg vices, the load is carried around the screw down into the ground, so you can take a sledgehammer to these things and it won't affect it whatsoever. The only downfall is they don't clamp squarely, it clamps like this. So you have a little bit of they don't clamp quite as well as a regular shop one does. Traditionally, if I can have you maybe back up here a little bit. Traditionally, the forge the big forge would have been right here against this wall. There would have been a small forge, maybe around this size. This is a river forge along this wall, and there was a bench here, And this is where the gunsmith would have worked. So most of the heavy forging would have been done over here. Gunsmith would have been over here, and along this area they would have had planks and a doorway where you're standing. This is where they would have brought the horses in to shod the horses. And so the main anvil would have been closer to here. There are some records of sledgers being hired here. And sledgers would have been very large gentlemen, usually over 6 foot, sometimes 6'4", and they would own their own hammers. And they would go up and down the rivers on the river boats, hiring out as heavy labor to the different blacksmith shops. And there was records of them getting paid as much, if not more, than the master smiths at the time.
Okay, what about the sharpening? Bring you my knife. I need to get it sharpened.
Yep.
This is
So this is old traditional sandstone grindstone. We have a lot of sandstone here in North Dakota. And this bench was recreated back in the 80s when the fort was recreated. But the sandstone wheel here is actually an archaeological find here. So this wheel was in use when the fort was open, and we're still using it to this day.
well. Yeah, usually you find those wheels and they're oblong. They're
Yep.
kind of.
It's got a little bit of a wobble to it, but it's really not that bad.
Oh, right here on the fort. That is way cool. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thanks for stopping out today.
Well, great. Thank you.
Wow. What did you think of that one?
I know a little bit about blacksmithing, but I did not know about that vise
Yeah, that was pretty
that
cool.
went down to the ground. That's
Yeah.
a new one for me.
Nice, nice. I hope everybody else enjoyed that. I see we got Jargo's in the house. Like an old timely metal shop. Cool. Michelle Can-Am Free, much love to you. Thank you for coming and being here with me tonight. Okay, I bet the dog is a lab. So needy. Yeah, my dog was there, my little pup. She was the one in the background whining like crazy, you know. But anyhow, we are gonna do this one you're gonna find this one very interesting. And this is the guy who tans the hides. And I was so amazed by this because my buddy, Cowboy Gus, he tanned his own buffalo hide once. He got a buffalo hide and he tried to tan it, and it was a disaster. Oh my God, I didn't realize how big and heavy a buffalo hide was. But he worked his heart out on it. I just wish we would have known this information. So I'm going to present this guy. Okay. And as soon as I get this guy going, we are going to be set. So you're going to enjoy this one. I'm sure you will too. Have you ever tanned a hide?
Tried several times.
Really? And did it turn out?
Emphasis on tried.
Was it,
It was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
Yeah, so that's what I mean by tried.
Yes, this is why the Indians like probably, doing.
They were pros at this stuff. These folks were pros.
Yes, they were pros, but I'm saying is that's probably why they wanted to trade for clothing versus metal tools and stuff, moreover than anything else, because it takes a lot of time and effort and work doing this, and you're going to find out right here from this guy. So we're going to bring him on and listen up. This is more than interesting. I tell you that. And here we go.
Hello and welcome. We're here at Fort Union, sometimes known as the first Walmart in North Dakota, and we have here an 1872 example of the #1 commodity that leaves from Fort Union from Native women. It's a 1872 buffalo robe. This is not heavy. It weighs 5 pounds. This is from it's had better days. The tail fell off probably during World War I. I got it on eBay. The one hallmark of native done buffalo hides is they weigh 5 to 7 pounds with hair on. with hair off, the target weight for this 2-year-old, 3-year-old buffalo cow is about 2.5 to 3 pounds. So that would make a 26 to 30 pound, 40 pound buffalo hide teepee. It's June right now, and June and July is the time the women would work hides, not me. But once again, you can't find good women anymore. Outside the fort and off and away, they would work buffalo hides for replacement teepees. But the number one commodity this time of the year would have been the fat coming off cow, not bull buffalo, but cow buffalo. And the bourgeois here, the factor of Fort Union, would trade away bladders of grease, so oil from the cows, either from the bones, with the bone marrow. That's the delicious fat, tastes like donuts. Here we had a deer died on the side of the road, and it's the bone oil that is known in our world as neatsfoot oil. When you heat this up, it actually tastes like frying donuts. It's a very good, delicious cooking oil. It doesn't last quite as long. But these hides are skinned, they're scraped, they're then oiled, or not a lot of oil, and not even the whole brain of a buffalo, usually about 1/3 or 1/4 of the brain, and just a handful of oil per hide. And that would only stay on for 4 days.
Can I ask a question? Why the brain?
Why the brain? It's an emulsifier, and it really does not tan the hide. As people, that's a misnomer. The brain, this one came from the same deer. It had a bad day on the side of the road. I get hungry because this is what I ate as a kid for breakfast. So these are deer brains. They cooked about 5 minutes, and I cooked them in creosote. The chemical reaction is smoke. It's not the brains. This just washes the internal glues out of a hide. And that's what you're doing when you're doing buckskin. You're trying to wash the internal glue, the loose non-structural glue, away from the fibers, which are also collagen and glue. And what you want to leave behind is fiber. And that's what the teepees, that's why they're lightweight. You would make your teepee once a year, maybe once every 2 years. And what really drives reusing the teepees, you need it for moccasins, and it's been used and smoked all winter, so it's really good hide for clothing. And you got plenty of buffalo, so you make another teepee, and this is done by women usually in June and July, and you don't do it in the winter because the wool is too long on the buffalo. But now is the time when buffalo are gathered because they've been eating green grass. They really got a lot of fat on them, and about 20 to 30% of any given herd is cows. The rest are bulls. So even though it may look like there's massive herds out here, very few of them are edible. And this happens in Africa too. It's not just the people going after fat cows. Hopefully they don't have calves, but they are producing fat. It's also the predators. So bears and wolves, they're going after the cows as well. So the population of cows is never the same as that of bulls. The problem with bulls, if you killed a 4 or older year-old bull, the skin is going to weigh about 35 pounds. It's just not usable. And the Smithsonian taxidermist Hornaday came to eastern Montana and says white people often make the same mistake. They come out onto the plains, kill the big bull, and when they're butchering it, they realize what a horrible mistake they just made. Bulls don't produce wool much at all. In an older age, they don't produce any fat, and the meat is really tough to deal with. You have to really slow cook for a long period of time. But the hide is also not even and consistent like any age of cow. And this is a 3-year-old buffalo cow. The hides, you just don't want to do as I did and flesh them and frame them. They can rip. And that's what I was just telling my friend. This is a hide that was fleshed and scraped and dried. And this happens 100% of the time with me, maybe not with all people. But the fibers are not that durable, particularly if it's been a hot summer and it's at the end of the summer. This rips like paper, and I don't recommend people do the buffalo straight from the hide because it just gets brittle and rips. What avoids this is soaking it in the river or soaking in barrels of water for about 3 days, changing the water 3 times a day. That gets rid of the loose glue. And if you frame it, that's the worst case scenario. That's going to stretch the fibers out and the glue overwhelms the fiber. So I leach the hides and then I frame them, and as a result I get a hide that's pliable and is not brittle. So leaching is a very important old habit, but a lot of times it doesn't show up in recipes. Buffalo and antelope are particularly susceptible to this ripping and the brittle effect. I did this for years and didn't know what was going on and found out by mistake. So there's game for thought. I don't use any salt, and native people didn't use salt. You would need thousands of pounds of salt if you're doing 8 buffalo in one day. It's just not going to work. But they definitely took the gelatin off and dried the hides. This time of the year, they usually stake them out on the ground, and that's the fast way to do a lot of hides at one time. The lace holes that are cut in the edge of the hide, Buffalo Bird Woman, there's a lot of information I get. This is her rule of thumb. It's the distance between your thumb and your pointing finger between lace holes. So it takes usually me about 30 minutes to lace a square skin hide. When the hides are skinned, another European habit that's just come in since I think about 1880s is hanging the animal and cutting to the inside of arms and legs. That's not the way it's done around the world. The way animals in field are skinned, you can look at this up on Inuit caribou skinning today or Australian skinning in pasture sheep. They square skin it. The front of the front leg is where the cut's done. Back of the back leg and the belly skin. If the hide is too big, too heavy, you cut the hide in half, like this cattle hide, and you cut it head to tail. And Rodney Douglas is out in the yard. He's got a half buffalo bull that he's par-fleshed and staked to the ground. And these are too heavy to handle, and women didn't want to pick up a 75-pound wet hide, so they cut them in half, particularly if it's just too big and large. Some teepees have half hides in them. It's not a big deal. It's just you have to look after yourself when you're doing these skins. The only active ingredient is the brain, and this is a deer brain, which works just as well, and it's delicious. But you cook that for about five minutes, get it opaque, and you rub it into the skin. If you don't have brains, or maybe you're not really game for brains, any kind of soap will do, like ivory snow or yucca root, which grows here in North Dakota. This is about as far north as it grows. And into Montana, the root will make a soap that's as strong as Dawn dishwashing detergent. And if you just add the root to water, that's the result. In cold water, it'll foam up. This will do the same thing as the brain. The bottom line, they're an emulsifier. They're going to wash out the connective loose glue that's in between the fibers and give you soft, pliable buckskin that you can make a teepee out of at very light weight. And I have the swatch here. So this is the target. Sorry to not have a fully softened hide, but this is the texture of what we're looking for. It should feel like velvet. Very light, easy for a needle to go in. That's a sign of good buckskin. Or if most people don't use needles, they use awls, and that's why buckskin is always needed. If people do bead and quill work, they use last year's teepee. This makes all this work that she has on here a lot easier to do. Because if she used commercial hide, she would probably get carpal tunnel syndrome by the time she does all that work. So the awl has to go in and slide in very easily, and it needs to hold up. The brains don't tan the hide again. The brains just basically wash the loose glue out of the hide so that you have a lot of sanding, a lot of rubbing. Some people cable. I don't have hands that can do that anymore to soften this, but sanding will do most of this. The best way to do this is wet. You wash in warm water. You wash the brains out. You wash the oil out. You wring it out. And you don't want to leave that grease in the hide, or the rats find the hide and eat it up, like we have here. This was oiled hide that I had brained, and I'd smoked it ahead of time, and in one night the pack rat ate it. So you have to protect them when they're in an oiled state. The other problem with greasy hides that are buckskin is in this sunlight right here, they'll get grease burn and rip and fall apart too. So the grease can help soften the hide, but it cannot stay in the hide, or else you're going to be in trouble fast with UV rays the way they are today. And I live in the mountains outside of Butte, Montana. The peck rats would eat your teepee alive if you left the oil in it. The skins are then wrung out, whether they have hair on them or hair off, and you wring it out like you're doing laundry. You then rub the hide, maybe on a frame on a sunny day like today, until the hide is dry. And if it's not fully soft the way you would like it, wet it again, do it again. Maybe a little bit of brains, but with buffalo hides, they don't have a lot of fibers. It doesn't need a full buffalo brain per hide, as some people do with deer hides. It's usually about a third or fourth of the brain per hide. And right now it's June, so this is TP hide season. I'll show you real quick. We have our model here. Would you mind wearing the robe?
Oh, sure.
I'll put it on her. So I've got to find the head and tail. It probably fell off during World War I. But there's an etiquette to wearing a buffalo robe, and she's about the right height. Are you married?
Mm-hmm.
You are? Darn. Okay, it's hard to find women in North Dakota. But the head goes, there's an etiquette. It goes to the left side, the tail to the right. It's as if the buffalo's running around her clockwise. You need enough to cover the top of her noggin, but she shouldn't be dragging the buffalo robe on the ground. It should be above her moccasins, so that it basically is what she's going to be sleeping in tonight. She doesn't need a muddy robe. She needs to be comfortable and elegant, which she is already. So it's about an 1872 buffalo robe, and she's pretty much dressed for the North Dakota winter. Now, if it's raining, this is not how she wears it. She needs to change gears. The head still goes on that side. This is for rainy weather. And this sheds the water off and keeps her warm and dry. So it's to keep the hair on the outside and shed the water off. And that's the whole story for now.
Very cool. Thank you.
You bet.
Wow. What'd you think of that?
Wowzers.
Did you learn anything?
Yeah, I wish that he had expanded a little bit on the leaching part, but
Well, I mean, he is given just demonstrations. It ain't like I'm taking a class. I mean,
right.
I was taking it all so fast when he was talking that I was like, oh, it's a good thing I'm recording, because I'm trying to feed this all into my brain.
Yeah, he really covered a lot of ground really quick.
Yes, he did. I'd like to see him. He had a lot of good examples there, the different hides, and how I didn't realize how light that hide would become. Did you hear him saying, oh yeah, well, you get the whole hide done, it's like 6 pounds. I'm like, wow.
And it was stripped with it was only 2 or 3 pounds.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, holy cow, and then he said the teepee would have been like 30 pounds. And I'm thinking, I thought it would be once you start folding that up, that would have been really heavy, but that just changed my whole mind on everything. That and the fact that like it says the other part where he wrapped that buffalo hide around her, and said, here, this is how you wear for winter, with the hair inside, but if it's raining, you put the hair on the outside. And I'm thinking, I was blown away, because I'm like, what? You're putting the hair on the outside? That should keep, no, the hair sheds the water.
Yep.
Little did I know. Yeah.
You sure learned a lot more about it, didn't you?
Yeah, like I said, and if you don't do it right, it gets thin and it just rips like paper. And I off camera, I took some, I ripped it myself. It's like, this is real thin and papery. And wow. Anyway, it was just amazing. It was amazing. Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do it and you've never experienced it, so for me, I've only done it maybe 3 times trying to do it. So 3 times is just enough for you to learn how to make mistakes.
Yeah. Well, you only learn by making mistakes. But I bet you just following his directions there, a person could probably, have a half-ass chance. Basically saying, keep it wet. You got to get all the, when you did yours, did you use an emulsifier? What did you use?
I try to use brains.
You did? Oh,
Yes. I got some
okay.
deer brain and we tried that. But letting it dry out and not keeping it wet, blah, blah, blah. And it will stink. Okay.
Yeah, because
When
it's
you put that hide in the water, oh my God. And so you don't want to go out there and mess with it. And at least I didn't, which messed up the hide because I let it in too long and I didn't change it enough. And because I was like, God almighty, but that's why they used to do this soaking in water in a stream.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
did you hear him? He says you got to change that water 3 to 4 times a day.
and that was not what I was doing. And so, I failed right there.
Yes, yes, exactly. There's Amber Dawn. Amber Dawn come to visit us. And yeah, she's been having some really good streams lately. So go check her channel out, Amber Dawn Rising. Some really cool ones. I know I had to re-listen to that last one. I listened most of the day at work. It was like a 2-hour show, but it was pretty good stuff. But anyway, so go check her channel out, everybody. If you ain't subscribed, go subscribe over there. Anyway, let's see. But yeah, the difference of the hides, I didn't know that about the cows. Did you know that about the buffalo cows?
What about the fat and all?
No, that the best hide is the cow hide, not the bull.
Oh, yeah.
You did. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
And
not necessarily about the buffalo, but about cows.
oh, okay, yeah.
That if you get the male bull, it's just tougher, just all
Yeah.
the way around. I mean, when folks around here shoot a deer, they don't go for the trophy. They, my next door neighbors, Sheila and Ricky, they go for the does because they're more tender,
Oh, yeah,
and
exactly.
and so it's like, well, that's the cow, right?
Mhm.
That's the cow of the, but so yeah, in that now I don't know necessarily why this came up in my brain. I don't know, but hogs, a lot of hogs are castrated, so you don't know if they're male or female.
Yeah.
So which is interesting. It's hard to be able to make the comparison, and I don't know too many things that are made out of pig skin. I mean, truly,
Well,
it's not like a hide that you. But anyway,
well,
so
I know like cows nowadays, people raise steers, and they also don't keep them very long. You don't want to keep your steer. He's going to be 1.5 to 2 years old and go to market. And you
Yep.
basically can't tell the difference between that steer and a cow at that point,
Right.
So that's why I kind of, because I'm so used to that kind of stuff. Like people going hunting, they go hunting for the big trophy rack buck. Why? When the doe is the better eaten, eating deer. I've eaten deer a lot, and the does always taste better.
Right. Well, that's just it. They're going for the trophy.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
going for the food. They're going for the trophy. And
Yes.
so it's like, okay, you want a deer with a big set of racks, or an antelope or whatever. It's like, okie doke. But them same folks aren't necessarily going to be eating the meat neither.
True. That is true. And then they grind it up in the burger anyway, then most of the time. The thing, but still, I couldn't believe how few cows there actually was. He's saying 20 to 30% of the cow or the buffalo were cows. The rest of them were bulls.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, no wonder why they got depleted, because the Indians are out there hunting the cows, and everybody else is just shooting whatever, and you got 30%. You're a buffalo hunter. You don't care if it's a cow or a bull or whatever. You're just out there shooting, and then so it makes I just don't understand it. So yeah, but now I can see why they couldn't get replenished, because if you killed 10% of that 30, well, you just decimated the rebirth numbers, right?
Yeah. And you're almost on extinction level.
Yeah, I mean, you could have went out there and knocked off all the cows, and then, or at least 20%. Say you knocked off 20%. Well, the rest of them are just out there grazing. You know, I mean, they're all bulls.
Yeah, and if there's only 30 to 35% females anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
because of the way they were, selectively,
Mhm.
processed, if you will. So you take 15 or 20% of that 30, you ain't going to find a female.
Yep.
It's going to be tough to find a female. I
Yeah.
did not know that about the fat,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. And
Yeah.
the fact that they, inside the marrow, that's what, because you think about it, where did they get cooking oil out there on the prairie?
Yeah.
They got it from the buffalo. I did not know that.
Huh. Well, we're all learning something.
Yep.
Like I
And
said,
I mean, so where are you going to get, so you got fat back. Okay. So you got some pigs and you got some grease, but if you don't have pigs or grease, then where are you going to have that oil, for cooking?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was very interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I learned a lot. I didn't, like you said, I didn't know that about the cows, that they are the ones that have the fat and the grease, whereas the bull, big giant bull, has got none of that, or very little anyway.
Yeah.
So even though they're huge, not much of that. So yeah, that was pretty good. Anyway, we're about an hour in, so we're gonna go right to your story. We'll have, you know what? We'll have another one for next week with the Indian guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I never made it to the Indian guy yet, but I thought these two were very interesting interviews, and I hope you all out there enjoyed it, because I went out there and stood in the hot sun for y'all to get these interviews, and these people were very nice, and I encourage each and every one of you to, if there's a rendezvous near you, take the day off, go on vacation. This rendezvous didn't cost nothing to get in. It was just everybody donating their time and energy to go out there and do all of this. I walked in, I walked around, people answered questions, they had demonstrations, it was all free, and I had the best time. I really did, especially talking to all these people. Like I said, I got these great interviews, and these people were so nice and friendly. And if you get a chance, go check one out. If you're at all interested in it, bring the kids, bring the family. It's quite the place to go.
Yeah, there are rendezvous, and also here's something you can really do easily, and it's powwows. And you can type in the word powwow into any search engine, and there's a powwow.com. They list all kinds of events all around the United States, and sometimes in Mexico and Canada. And so you can check to see, if there's one near you, what time of year, if there's any cost. Sometimes there's camping available. So, but yeah, all you got to do is look up powwows.com, where rendezvous might not show up as much as, festivals or whatever, but you can do, look up festivals in your area, for your state, for example. I know the state of Georgia, you can type in festivals and it'll list all kinds, whether it's powwow or native or within a state park or whatever. So, if you say, well, I don't know. Well, with the internet these days, that's not an excuse.
Yeah, I know. I just looked it up. This comes up here. I'll share it with y'all. So it is a real site. There you go. Powwow's results, powwow.com. So go check it out. Type in your select month, day, or year, and then hit search. Select month. What month is it? It's going to be July. Year 23. State. Let's go with North Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota, and hit search. See, what did it give me? No powwows at this moment. Oh, crap. How about
Try
Darn.
South. Well, okay, never mind.
No, what? Where? South Dakota?
Yeah.
I was thinking next. South Dakota. Okay, Sisseton. Whoop. Whoop, 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 whoop. Oh, I hit the button too soon. Austin, Texas. Ah, crap. I got to do it again.
Well, but wait, just hang out right there for a second. But see, it shows what's up. There's Tennessee, Washington,
Yeah.
Texas.
Yep.
Now that's not just the summer, but New York, Sumter, South Carolina, 110th anniversary, Sumter tribe of Cherokee?
But with this one, Chira,
Yeah,
Chira,
I was just
Yeah.
reading.
Sumter, South Carolina, Dayton, Tennessee, Durham, Oklahoma, Choctaw Powwow.
Elba,
Yeah.
Alabama. I know where that is. We used to play it with the carnival.
Well, there you go in October.
Wow, how about that?
Maybe you go to that. Hey, check it out. And you could do the videotaping.
Yeah, well, if I
Oh.
can get my truck running and me be able to walk again, yep. I intend to go over to Colomoki Mounds.
West Virginia, Wheaton, Illinois, Native American Harvest Powwow. There you go. I've been to Wheaton, Illinois. Billings, Montana. I know where that is. Rocky Mountain College.
Yeah, I've been to
Honoring our
Billings,
communicant. Yep. That's not about 300 miles from here.
Fayetteville, North Carolina,
Yep.
Boonville, Missouri. There's a
Yeah.
Boonville, North Carolina too.
Here's New York.
Oh, look
Min-
at this. It's Indigenous Peoples Day.
Oh, yeah, there you go. New York.
It's not Native Americans, it's indigenous because it's
Oh.
New York City.
Mm. Yep, only in New York.
Just
Here's one in
saying.
Mineral City, Ohio. Three Sisters Intertribal Powwow. And it goes on from there. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with all of you because that was interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's not all of them either. But
no.
what has scared people to death was the COVID thing the last couple of years. There's a local place here down in Cairo, Georgia, just south of me. Some folks call it Cairo, but that's if
Mhm.
you're from Egypt.
Yeah.
But you're not from South Georgia. It's Cairo. But anyway, it's actually near the little. But anyway, it's. Oh, my mind just went blank. But it's a small tribe, and the Muskogee Creek kind of thing. And so they used to have at least one every fall in
Mhm.
October, just before the end of the year, just before Halloween. And they haven't had it the last 3 years, and they're scared to death to have anybody come. I've read on their website kind of thing, and I'm like, what is wrong with you folks? But anyway, so they're just very, very paranoid about having anybody there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
okay.
but that's the thing is when they're having those powwows, Amber says, I have a lot of reservations around here, but I don't want to intrude with my white ass. Well, and it's not the fact that you're intruding. When they have a get together and it's an open invitation, they're
Exactly. When they invite you, you're not an intruder.
Yes.
But if you was to go the week before or the week after, you might be an intruder.
Yes. I remember Nina, she used to come on in the chat a lot. I knew her personally, and she was a Lakota Indian. And she kept telling me, well, maybe she will someday yet. But we still stay in touch. But she was going to take me to one of those powwows. And she says, you'll love it. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. And she says, if there's one and I bring you, you're welcome to come. And so if you know somebody, that would be a good way to go too, is to, hook up and say, hey, if they invite you along, go, take the chance, take the opportunity, because
absolutely
it's a once in a lifetime deal sometimes, like,
yeah.
I mean, I wish I one of these days I'm going to hit her up again and say, let's go. But, you know, she had a kid and got married and all this other stuff. So whatever. But anyway, one of these days. So anyway, a lot of fun stuff to do. And I'm sure there will be some more stuff around here. Like I said, you know, it's all over. People just don't look for it. And, you know, the Native Americans, the Indians, they go to these things. And, you know, I've never took much interest in it because, you know, I really was like, I kind of felt like Amber, kind of felt like an outsider if I went, but now I kind of understand it better, and realize that they're just trying to share. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because one of the things is that, you know, and I have been involved with some, you know, up in Tullahoma, Tennessee. We were voted one year, like 2002, like one of the best premier events for the state of Tennessee and also for the Southeast. It was a big event, you know, and lots of vendors, and yeah, you had to pay to get in, but you know, they were paid, they had dancers, and so they paid some of the dancers. They had, I say paid, they had awards, and, you know, for the best dancers, so forth, anyway, and regalia. And so, but anyway, to be involved with something like that is so massive and a lot of people, it's that most of the people who came even to that large event in Tennessee, there, of course, Tennessee is home of the Cherokee a lot, you know, so the respect that people had. So there was a little bit of protocol depending on where you're going. You know, if they set out, you know, if they marked out the circle and they've, you know, they got a place for the fire or the fire is going, you don't walk across it. You just don't cut across it. No matter what, you walk around. That was why they called me Running Man, because I wouldn't run, I wouldn't go across the parade ground, because they had consecrated it.
Yeah. And
so they had gotten there Friday and set it up. All of the drums that drum, they all have their own prayers. They all do their own, they have different things they put under the drums before they drum. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff. So, you know, if you go with somebody, they can kind of tune you into these little things, like you don't cut across there. And you don't do this. You don't go up and bang on the drum, and you don't go up and interrupt these people. And there's just certain little common sense things. But if you don't know that you're not supposed to cut across, and somebody says, hey, quit doing that, you go, what's wrong with that? Well, because they had blessed the circle, and they don't want you just cutting across, and it's just not, you know. So, but if you've never been and don't have anybody to explain it to you, then you can make the mistake. And I made mistakes and got hollered at. And that's how I learned, well, wait a minute. Well, we consecrated this circle, sucker. And who are you, white man, to come in here? That's when they get an attitude.
Yeah.
But if you come in as a respectful white man, and I went in basically, you know, I know my grandmothers were Cherokee, and I'm here to learn about my heritage. So that you're not just a white person, you're trying to learn about your heritage. So if any of y'all go to an event and you think you might even have 1% Native American in you, tell them that you want to learn about your heritage, and that will bust down a lot of, oh, he's just a white person. No, I'm a white person that I'm trying to learn about my culture.
I agree with that.
And that softens them up. But you know, if you're just going to just look around and hang out and stuff, and then you might not, you know, but if you're going to have conversation with someone, and maybe it's a vendor, you know, I learned a lot of information by, you know, when they were having like last call and the vendors were still open, but very few people, I go around and talk with the vendors. And, you know, what about this? And how did you get that? And who do you get your hides from? And, you know, but you're interested from a I want to learn my heritage. And they'll just open right up and tell you all kinds of stuff. But if you're just a white person asking questions,
Yeah.
just saying.
Well, like I said, go to an event or hook up with somebody if you know,
Yep.
you know, and befriend them a little bit. You know, that goes a long way. Like you said, you know, find out if you're part Indian. You know, take one of those DNA tests, and maybe you say, hey, you know, I'm such and such, and then go find your heritage. There you go.
Most of us who have been here, you know, unless you're some ritzy, you've got some kind of Native American in you, because there was so much interbreeding back in the day. And unless your, you know, grandparents came over on the boat from Europe, if your heritage goes back 100 years, you probably got some mix in you. And you wouldn't be lying to say, I want to learn my native here, you know, American history, because you probably got some in you. Just say.
My grandparents came on the boat.
Well, see, when you know that kind of thing, but see, from the Lee side of the family, it traces all the way back to Robert E. Lee. And even back because of Robert E. Lee, you know, that means I would have been also the great grandson of George Washington, because Robert E. Lee married George Washington's granddaughter. So, you know, but so from my side of the family, it really does go back 200 years, you know, from the Lee side of the family. The Null side, 1800s or early 1900s. Yep. So maybe not so much of the Native American in them, but the Lee side of the family, for me, absolutely.
Nice. Interesting. Very interesting.
Because I was adopted. So
yeah. I mean, learn, you know, that it's amazing how, when you really start thinking about it, how small this world really is. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyway, you guys, speaking of small world, you got a story for us tonight.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of these words I've been trying to practice, and I'm just going to murderize them. That's all there is to it. I'm just going to murderize them. If you can't pronounce them, then you're not going to know if I murderize them or not.
Well, you know, that's how it goes. You know me, I can't pronounce anything. You're always correcting me. So if you pronounce it, I'm good with it. Anyway,
I'm really good at faking some of this. Yeah. Some of this stuff I know how it's pronounced because I've read it or heard it or somebody's corrected me, you know.
Yep.
You know, I try not to correct you, but sometimes you're really good at murderizing some words.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Jeannie says my neighbor was a drummer. When the family was from Minnesota, they'd all come to my living room and drum. It was awesome.
Oh, I bet.
That was so
And where
cool.
Did she say Minnesota?
Yeah, my neighbor was from a drummer with the family. It was from Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota.
Yeah, I knew a drum from Minnesota. They showed up in Tullahoma several times. They even made it down to South Georgia one time. But I can't remember the guy's name, but somewhere upstairs, if I can ever get back up there, I've got a CD that I purchased from this Minnesota drum. But so anyway, I couldn't tell you their names, but I can remember them, and would climb in the back of their car, and just it was amazing. Those
if you ever find that CD, we'll play it on the show. It'll be great.
Yep.
Jargo says, my soul is Indian. She says, I make Indian drums, good at it, this white girl. Yes. And she says, me too, adopted. So there you go. You guys got something in common. Yep. Wow, Jargo, you make Indian drums. That's so cool. I'd like to have one on the show. Send me an email. I would love to have you make me a drum, and we could have it on the show here. I would definitely pay you for it. Not a problem, and have it shipped here. Let me know how to get a hold of you, or send me an email. It's in the description below. Love to have one of those drums.
And one of these days, I apprenticed with somebody up in Tennessee, and made drums. And she was the person who made my drum that I've drummed with, you know, on air a couple of times. But I'm hoping that one of these days when my back straightens out and so forth, because I just couldn't work in a shop for very long, but I would love to set my shop up to be able to make drums.
Oh, that'd be
You know, I have not been in touch with her for a long time, but you know, I was really good at making them. You know, I was really good, because she used to shake her finger and go, "You've only been doing this 2 weeks and already your drums are better than mine." So, you know, and that was from somebody who'd been taught, you know, 20 years earlier, and I'd been doing this for like 2 weeks.
Well, like I said, it'd be cool to have us on the show. I would love to have a set of drums hanging in the back here, you know. But
Absolutely.
anyway, okay, we got our story, and I got it pulled up.
Okay, let me get to my screen and let me, this is, oh, what did you do?
What did I do?
Oh, go back to that other screen for a minute. Yeah, okay. Let me get my story out.
Oh, okay.
I have to pull it on top. Otherwise, when you go to full screen, I can't see mine. Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
You go back.
And voila. Death of an inchworm. Cool. Okay, everybody. I hope you're ready for the story. Scotty Boy's itching. He says, or was it Mark says you're 15 minutes behind time?
Yeah, it's 11:16 Eastern Daylight Time.
Well,
The trails, or is it trials?
Trials.
I know, but I mean, you know, one could look at that and the trails of an inchworm. I mean, you know, because would they leave a trail? But anyway, hang on, let me get ready. Got me a little sip going on there. Adjust the screen. We are our characters for this particular story. Whoops, there I went, moving the dang screen too far. The Ancient of Bears, Blackbird, Woodcock, Blue Lizard, and the Wind. And when I get to those native names, I'll pronounce them and make them a mess. Quad is the mud turtle. Wayo, rabbit, also called Longfoot. Gakwaga, raven, also called Shagonagis, always chasing. And then there's Gasiodetha, lightning lion or meteor, also called Hogies, longhorns. And then there's the fox, who is the Nagawatagwa, the big tail. So this is the Seneca story of the trials and death of Inchworm. Did I get that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the trials and death of Inchworm, told by Johnny John. And this book was still back in the day of 1923 is when these stories were told. Inchworm lived in a little dirt cabin in the center of a big forest. He had plenty of meat and provisions of all kinds. One morning, a messenger came to his cabin and said, "They want you to come to Dry Island 2 days from now to be present at a meeting." "I will be there," said the old man, but after the messenger had gone, he began to wonder what the meeting was for and if he ought to go. 2 days later, Inchworm, starting before sunrise and traveling very fast, at midday reached a large lake. He stood near the water, looking around, asked in his mind, "Where is Dry Island?" After a while, he saw off in the western part of the lake a small island. He walked along the shore till he was opposite the island, and then went into the water and swam till he came to it. He went ashore, looking around, and thought, well, where are all the people? I can't stay here long, it's too dry. But I have promised to be at the meeting. Then he saw at the northern end of the island a crowd of people. He went to the place, and when the chiefs saw him, they called out, all are present, now we will begin. The 4 chiefs, Meteor, Rabbit, Raven, and Fox, sat down and began to talk about Inchworm. They were of one mind. They wanted Inchworm to move away from the forest where his home was. Inchworm didn't want to go away from a place where he had lived a long time, he said. I'm satisfied with my home. I like the country around here. Why should I leave it? The chiefs tried to make him consent to move, but he wouldn't. His answer was always, I am satisfied with my home. Why should I leave it? The chiefs were losing patience and getting angry with him when all at once they heard a noise at the southern end of the island, like dog barking. They heard Mud Turtle coming, and he was scolding. When he came to where the people were assembled, he said, I want you to leave my island. Be quiet, said one of the chiefs. Don't drive my people away. They are peaceable people. I won't be quiet, said Turtle. This is my island. I do as I please here. I don't want you around. Go away. We will go across the lake, said the chief. Turtle followed the crowd to the edge of the lake. There, everybody jumped into the water and swam away. When they came out on the mainland, one of the chiefs said, we will sit down here. The people sat down, and again the chiefs tried to make Inchworm say that he would leave his place in the woods. When he refused, they talked to him and scolded till they saw a dark object coming toward them. Then they stopped talking and watched. At last, Rabbit said, that is an enemy of ours. That is Blue Lizard. I'm going. I don't want him to chase me. He stood up and called to the people to come with him. All went except Inchworm. He thought, Lizard doesn't want to kill me. I'll stay here. When Blue Lizard came up, he asked, where is the council? The chiefs have gone to the other side of the lake, said Inchworm. I thought I would come to the meeting, said Lizard. I am friendly. I don't want to kill anybody. Why did they go away? They are afraid of you, said Inchworm. I don't like those chiefs. I can't say anything to them. They won't listen. They want me to leave the forest where I live. Why do they want you to leave your home? Asked Lizard. I think you had better go back to your cabin and stay there. I will stay here till they come again, and if they are cross because I have sent you back to the woods, I will fight them. It won't do to drive a person out of the place where his home is. That's why I want you to go back. Don't be afraid of those people. I will fight them. Inchworm went home, and Blue Lizard waited for the people to come back. When Inchworm got home, he cooked some meat, ate it, and then went to sleep. While sleeping, he dreamed that somebody came to his cabin and said, I am here to tell you that trouble is coming and to tell you what to do. If you want to live, pile up meat on your couch under it and then start off. Go north till you come to a high cliff. Climb the cliff and stay there till morning. Your life depends upon this. The voice stopped. Inchworm piled meat onto the couch and under it, threw his blanket over the couch and started off, going north. When he came to a cliff, he climbed it and lay down where there was nice green grass, and soon he was asleep. The council The council sent Nagawahi, the ancient of bears, to kill Inchworm. He went into Inchworm's cabin, pulled the skin blanket from the couch, and saying in his mind, "Here is the man I am going to kill." He ate all the meat, thinking he was eating Inchworm. Then he went back to the council and said, "Inchworm is dead. I have killed him." The next morning, Inchworm woke up and started for home. When he got there, he found that the meat he had put on the couch and under it had been eaten. Not even a bone was left. He cleaned his house, cooked, and after he had eaten, he said in his mind, "I'll go to Dry Island and say a few words to Turtle. But first, I'll send a messenger to tell him that I'm coming." He called Yellowbird and sent him to tell Turtle that he would be there in 2 days, that he wanted to say a few words to him. Yellowbird did as he was told. Turtle said, "Let him come. This is the way to do. When a person wants to talk with me, he should send a messenger to tell me that he is coming." After 2 days, Inchworm started. He reached the lake and swam across to the island and then looked around for Turtle's house. Soon he saw an underground house in the middle of the island, and going to it, knocked on the door. When Turtle got up to open the door, he began to scold, and he scolded till he came out of the house. Inchworm was frightened and backed away. Turtle laughed, stopped scolding, and said, "Come back, I'm ready to talk." Inchworm said, "I came to talk about the council that was here and to ask you to be my friend. You are of the same mind that I am. You want to keep your home as long as you live. Those chiefs say that I must leave the forest where I have always been. I don't want to leave. I want you to be my friend so we can hold the places where we live." Turtle said, "I like what you say, and I will help you. I will tell you what to do. Whenever you want to come here, send a messenger to say that you are coming." "Now I am going," said Inchworm. When he got to the lake, he ran to the water. He didn't swim as he had when coming. He traveled quickly and was soon at home. Some days later, Inchworm heard, off in the east, a loud noise. Then he heard it again, and nearer his house. "Well," said he in his mind, "my friend said he would tell me what to do if an enemy came. I don't think that noise is made by anyone coming to fight with me." But he stayed in the cabin and watched. Soon he saw Nagwahi so near the cabin that there was no chance to run away from him. Then Inchworm thought, "It must be that the end of my life has come." Nagawahi came in, but Inchworm wasn't afraid. He laughed and said, "You are a fine-looking man. I will give you a name that will help you always. I will call you Shagoye Dojidas. He drives them away." "I don't like that name. I never act in that way." "I will call you Shagonigis, he torments them. I don't want that name. I will call you Days Gone Go, soaked with earth. That will do. I'll take that name. Inchworm didn't know that each night the chiefs held a council to devise a way to kill him. Nagawahi went off, and soon Inchworm heard the voice that had spoken to him in the night. It was the voice of Giha, the wind, and the voice said, I am here to help you. People are coming to kill you. I will tell you how to overpower them. At the northern end of the forest, you will find a weed called Iwodago. Gather that weed and plant it around your house. Get 4 white flint stones and put 1 stone at each corner of the house outside. Then bring wood and pile it up around the house. On the 10th day, set fire to the wood. That day the chiefs will come to kill you. This is all. Why do the chiefs want to kill me? Asked Inchworm. The voice didn't answer. Inchworm put on his best clothes, took his bow and arrows, and went for the weed. In the woods, he couldn't walk very fast. Before he got far, night came. He looked around for a hollow tree, found one, and crept into it. The next morning, he went on, traveled all day, asking in his mind, when will I get to the end of my journey? Another night came. He looked around for a hollow tree, found one, and crawled into it. Then when almost asleep, he heard a noise like footsteps. He listened. The steps came nearer, and he heard 2 men talking. One said, I think this is a hollow tree. The other said, let's crawl into it, but first we must know how big the hole is. Pound on the tree and find out. Inchworm backed into the hole as far as he could and kept still. The 2 men were of the woodcock people. They crawled into the hole, and soon one of them said, it seems to me that there is somebody in here. I don't think there is anyone here but ourselves, said the other man. The next morning, the 2 men got out of the tree and went off toward the west. Soon after, Inchworm crawled out and looked around. When he saw the 2 men, he whooped. They heard him and asked one another, who is that whooping? Let's go back, and maybe it's the man we are hunting for. They found Inchworm sitting on the ground near the hollow tree. Where did you come from? Asked one of the men. From Broken Land. Do you know the man who lives in the woods? I don't know him. Why are you here? Where are you going? I'm traveling through the forest to see how the country looks where the sun goes down. We are going to that country, said one of the men. We'll go with you. I am not going now. I must stop and hunt for game. We will stay with you. Maybe we can help you. Where will you camp? I will look around and see where there is a good place. You can look for one too. Inchworm went in one direction, the 2 men in another. When Inchworm got out of sight, he started off towards the north. At midday, the 2 men came back to the hollow tree, but Inchworm wasn't there. Just at midday, Inchworm reached the edge of the forest and began to look for the weed. He found it, and in a short time gathered a big bundle of it, and then he started for home. Near sunset, he came to the hollow tree and found the two men there. They had killed game and were roasting some of the meat. When they saw Inchworm, one asked, "Where have you been all day?" "Oh, here and there, not far away," said Inchworm. "We have plenty of meat," said the man. "Come and eat with us." Inchworm put his bundle down, ate, and rested. The next morning, when the men began to cook, Inchworm said, "I will go into the woods a little way. I will be back before you are through eating." And taking his bundle, he started off toward the east. When out of sight, he ran as fast as he could and was at home before midday. He put down his bundle of weeds and went for the white flint, found the stones, and took them to the cabin. The next morning, he went into the forest to look for dry boughs and pieces of wood. When he had gathered a large pile, he carried it home, a load at a time, and then put it down near the cabin. At the end of 6 days, he said in his mind, "I have enough wood now. Now I will plant the awogago." He planted the weed, put a white flint stone at each corner of the cabin outside, and piled up the wood around the cabin. The next morning, Inchworm said in his mind, "At midday, the chiefs will come." Just before midday, he set fire to the wood. It blazed up quickly and made a great fire. When the chiefs came, Rabbit said, "Inchworm's house is burning up." Gajonditha, Meteor, said, "Let us find out which one of us has the greatest power." And he sprang into the fire. The burning was not as white as he thought. He came down between the fire and the cabin and straight on to a piece of flintstone. He was impaled and couldn't move. He saw that the cabin was not burning, that there were beautiful plants growing around it, and they were covered with bright green, red blossoms. He began to cry, and he cried louder and louder. Inchworm said, "Somebody's crying. I'll go and see who it is." When he saw Meteor, he asked, "What are you doing there?" The man was crying so hard at first he couldn't answer, but after a while he said, "I came to visit you." "Where are the other chiefs?" "They're in the fire." They had jumped in to test their power, and not able to get out, had burned to death. Inchworm said, "You came here to kill me." And he reproached Meteor till the man gave up his enmity and said, "I will be your friend and give you my power." Then Inchworm stopped his reproaches. "Let us go into the cabin," said the chief. Inchworm was angry. He asked, "Do you think this is your cabin?" "No." "Then why did you say, 'Let us go in'?" "I just said it, that's all. I didn't mean anything wrong." "Well, we will be friends," said Inchworm. He went into the cabin and looking back thought, "Where is my friend?" He went out and found Meteor standing on the flintstone. He couldn't move. Inchworm took him by the hand and pulled him from the flint. Then they went into the cabin and sat down and talked and became good friends. Just at sundown, the fire around the cabin went out. The weeds that Inchworm had planted kept the cabin from burning. One morning, after Meteor had made Inchworm a long visit, he said, "I am going home now," and he started off. Inchworm was alone, but he had plenty to eat and was happy. One morning, he heard footsteps outside. He sat still, but he said in his mind, "Meteor is coming again." He listened, and when someone knocked on the door, he called out, "Why don't you come in?" The door opened slowly. Inchworm watched sharply. Soon a beautiful woman of the blackbird people came in and said to him, "I have come to marry you. My old folks sent me." Inchworm hung his head. "What shall I do?" thought he. Then he looked up and asked, "Will trouble come out of this?" "No," said the woman. "I want to live in peace." "I'll marry you," said Inchworm. Some days later, the woman began to scold. She scolded all day. Toward night, Inchworm said, "I'm tired. You scold all the time. You must go home." "I'll stop scolding," said the woman. "I don't believe you. It won't be quiet with you here. You must go." He went to where she was sitting, took her by the hair, dragged her to the door, and pushed her out. When she was outside, he said, "Now go away and never come back to this cabin." She went away crying. One morning, a few days later, Inchworm sat on the flintstone at one corner of his house and said to himself, "I feel weak this morning." He looked around in the woods and thought, "I wish my wife were here. I am sorry that I drove her away." He thought about it all day. Towards night, a man came and said, "I have come with a message from your friend who lives on Dry Island. He wants to visit you." Inchworm said, "Tell him to come 2 days from now." 2 days later, Inchworm, forgetting that Turtle was coming, said in his mind, "I'm going east this morning." He traveled along until midday. He came to the end of the forest and off in the distance saw a village. He went to the village, but every house was empty. At last, at the east end of the village, he saw smoke, and going toward it, found a hut. In the hut was a very old woman. When she heard someone come in, she stood up and raised a mallet. Inchworm saw the mallet and hurried out of the hut as fast as he could. Outside, he stood around to see what would happen. Just then, he remembered about Turtle's visit. "I must go home," he thought. "My friend is coming today, but first I'll burn this old woman's hut. I don't like the way she has acted towards me." He burned the hut with the old woman in it, then ran home as fast as he could. But when he came to the clearing where his cabin had been, there was nothing but a pile of dead coals. "My friend has burned my house," he said. "I'll kill my friend. If I can't kill him, I'll punish him in some way." And he hurried off to Dry Island. When he came to the turtle's house in the middle of the island, he jumped into it. But no one was there. He went outside, set a fire to the place, and waited till only dead coals were left. Then he went to the other side of the lake. He stood on the bank, listening. He heard someone scolding. The turtle had come back to Dry Island and found his house burned. He was mad and kept saying, "I'll kill my friend. I'll kill my friend." He crossed the lake and went to where Inchworm was waiting for him. Right away, they began to fight. They fought all day and all night. Fought 5 days and 5 nights. And then their bodies were gone. Only their heads were left. The heads fought till the 7th morning. Then, worn out, both died at the same time. Now that's just a peculiar story. Ain't no moral to that one. I mean, it just
One
was.
inchworm dead. The inchworm was dead.
You know,
Huh.
maybe you can't trust your friends. You know, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool though.
But inchworm, it, you know, from the story itself, he wasn't bothering anybody.
No, he wasn't.
And he didn't start bothering other people until they really bothered him. You know.
This is absolutely true.
So and it was interesting about the names too. He was like, "Oh, let me give you this name." Well, I don't like that name. And we were just talking about names. Well, let me give you this name. Well, I don't like that one either, you know. And so he gave him the third name. He was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll take that one." So, you know, there's that's a weird, for instance, right? You asking about the name thing earlier on, and then this shows up in the, you know, our synchronicities sometimes are freaky.
It is. I mean, what was the likelihood I would ask about names today?
Right. And that it be in the story. I mean, just what?
Just like that. I had no idea what story you were going to read. Let's see. We got Big Justin who came to visit us today. And Mary Wins is in the house, but she's got to go clean the pool. But anyway, so thank you for stopping in. I wish I had a pool. Of course, I do. I got a horse tank, and if I get too hot, I can just fill that up with water and jump in.
At least immerse yourself, right?
That's right. I might do
a
that.
redneck swimming pool.
That's right. I might get that out come Saturday or so, and jump on in, you know.
Yeah, tomorrow morning's my first therapy session in the pool.
Well, that should be interesting. I want to hear all about it next
should
week.
absolutely be interesting, because you know it's a specialty. It's not just a swimming pool. It's a pool for hydrotherapy or aquatic therapy, as they talk about now. But you know, it's got handholds all the way around it. There's actually a treadmill inside the on the bottom of one of the sides of the pool. So I'm looking forward to. I don't think there'll be any diving, but I'll be looking forward to the pool therapy.
Yeah, it sounds good.
And I'm hoping it'll do me some good too. But with that said,
Amber says she didn't think Turtle burnt down his house. The worm just assumed he did. I think so too. That's kind of the impression I got. Each one said you burned it down. You know, it was probably the bear. The bear probably, or the other guy. Somebody burned the houses down, and it started the, you know, Hatfield and McCoy's feud.
It could have been the Blackbird lady who was really pissed at her husband. You know.
Yep, exactly. Anyhow, okay, what do we got for a card?
Well, it's amazing, you know.
And you're gonna tell me it is Turtle, huh?
No, it's Dragonfly again.
Dragonfly again.
Yeah, I mean, Dragonfly seems to be coming up
a lot
frequently than other cards, and an upside down swan.
Ooh, we haven't had Swan.
And Swan is all about grace. Let me find my book here.
I had Swan and like forever.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had Swan.
Yeah,
Dragonfly, not so much.
Swan's so pretty. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm coming. I had the page and then it
Justin
moved on me.
Mary Wins. Mark the Spark Arc. Who else we got?
Hi, y'all.
Witchy Moon is still with us. A lot of times it gets a little late, but we catch up with the East Coast people. We got Michelle Can-Am Free. And she stays up late all the time.
I'm doing a live stream. Talk to you soon.
That's the way to do it.
They call me every Tuesday night. They call
Ah.
me every Tuesday night, knowing I got a live stream every Tuesday night.
Boots on the ground, Riz up Jargo. Got others. I'm not trying to hide or nothing. Just like to miss the AI. Huh. Boots on the ground. Well, there you go. Boots on the ground. I haven't seen boots on the ground. And there you go. Thank you for coming. Somebody new. Not like Mary Wins, who uses Drumstead's phone, and then I think, oh, we got somebody new. No, it's just Mary Wins. She's playing with us. And Mary,
Mary.
says it's No Pants Tuesday. Well, I guess Scotty Boy's in the clear tonight, because no pants is no pants, and we can't yell at him if it's No Pants Tuesday.
Yep, and it depends on what kind of pants. Does that include underwear?
Yeah. Travis the Brick is in the house.
Well, listen, the bat kept coming up, and in trying to pull the cards, and so that is about rebirth. So I want to throw that in there before I read the other two cards. Sacred black bat flew to me from the darkness of the cave. Womb-like reflections, answers that it gave. Birth, death, and rebirth. Cycles of the whole. Never ending, just eclipsed. The journey of the soul. That embraces the idea of the shamanistic death. The ritual death of the healer is steeped in secrets and highly involved initiation rites. Shaman death is the symbolic death of the initiate to the old ways of life and personal identity. The initiation that brings the right to heal and to be called a shaman is necessarily preceded by a ritual death. So folks want to move along in life. It's sort of like renaming yourself, right? As we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
In the renaming of oneself, that's a death, because you want the old person to go away. So this ritual death, if you will, is such that you want to start over. Well, then kind of sort of kill yourself. In other words, get rid of old habits and try a new aftershave, or shave under your armpits, or do something different.
Well, that's the whole part about getting a different name. You're tossing away that old name, and you're starting out with a new one. Now it's like you're a new person. I'm not that person I was. I'm this person now. I'm going to clear the slate and start over.
But you have to kill the other person, though.
Well, you're killing your old name.
But I mean, but to the point, though, that if you're going to start over, then you got to let that other person die. You got to let the other personage or the bad habits, you got to let them go by the wayside. You can't drag them with you.
Well, that's what I was reading in that one book. They were talking about this kid who changed his name, and they went to this ceremony. He had to got the council around, and he, and he had to get in there, and he had to do the ceremony, and he said, I want a new name. I've screwed up. My whole life has been crappy, and I promise to be better. I promise not to do those things anymore. I want a new name. I want a fresh start. And they agreed, and I'll have to read that to you. It was, like I said, this was so interesting to me. And he said, and the council agreed, and they found a name. And he says, I like that name, kind of like the bear did, with the inchworm. And he says, okay, I'll go with that name. And then it went on and said, after that day, after that ritual, he changed his life all around, and he never did those things anymore, and he became a whole new person. And in that respect, when you change your name and you do that, and you have your little ceremony of killing your name, you really killed that old person. But like you said, you have to change after that. You can't just say, I'm going to change my name and then move on and do all those same things, right?
Well, you can, but I mean, you know, what's the purpose of changing stuff if you're not going to change?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you gotta follow through on the original ideas. I want to change, so I'm going to do these things to make that change.
and isn't that what kind of a ceremony is for? Because I can just change my name and tomorrow, but I'm the same person. But when you do, like you're always talking about the ceremony, like when you take different drugs or whatever you're going to do, and you have a ceremony for it. It's really not a drug. It's something to enhance you, to make you that ceremony work, because you're doing the ceremony. You're being guided. You're going in with a purpose, not just like, hey dude, let's smoke some weed and we'll get buzzed, right?
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of ceremonies that had nothing to do with drugs.
Well, I'm saying is if you change your name, it wouldn't have anything to do with drugs. I'm just saying is a ceremony, and then adding whatever you're doing makes it more purposeful, right?
Right. Well, so for one of the things is say, well, I'm giving up smoking. And so you take a pack of cigarettes and you throw them in the fire. I'm going to quit drinking, and well, I'm going to take it down and throw it in the river, or whatever it might be. So there was an old joke, about the preacher who was talking to his parishioners on Sunday. He said, if I had every ounce of liquor, I'd take it down and throw it in the river. If I had every bit of beer, I would take it down and throw it in the river. And after he got done scolding his audience there, he looked to the choir master and said, now, what song is next? And the choir master looked up and grinned and said, shall we gather at the river? So, if you're not, you could burn or throw away old clothes, or, there's a lot of things that you can do that is symbolic of your change, of your death, or whatever, but it's up to you to follow through on it. If you can make New Year's resolutions all day long, but if you don't follow through on them, then it's just words.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is so many people do those things, say, yeah, I'm going to quit smoking, and but and then 2 weeks later they renege on it because they didn't have a purposeful thing. They didn't throw it in the fire. They didn't swear up and down. They weren't serious. They weren't serious. But by having that ceremony, that's one of those serious things. It's like marriage,
it will make it serious.
Yes.
Because you say, how bad do you want to give up your old habits?
Yeah.
Are you willing to have a ceremony to give to help you give them up? So, if you haven't been able to give them up to now, so now you've reached the point where you say, I got to have a ceremony because I need help from the Creator to follow through on this. I'm not strong enough myself. So I'm going to do a ceremony because I really want this to happen.
Yeah, you got to make it right in your mind, and sometimes just throwing the pack of cigarettes in the garbage isn't enough. No, you have to, like when
it is, but
yeah, like when I decided something, I went ahead and I made myself my own little contract, and I wrote it up and I signed it and I pinned it on the wall.
Yep.
And that was my contract for me that says I am not going to do that anymore.
Right.
And I still have it on the wall, and all the time. And I've changed since then. I've changed every time I think about that. I think of my little contract on the wall.
Right.
It was my little.
So ceremony. That's where the intent comes in.
Yes.
Can. I've been trying to give up cigarettes for the last 25 years, and but I have gotten to less than a half a pack a day. So, and there's just something about it. I don't know, but I have been serious about it a bunch. And now with my heart failure and everything, you know, it's like, I really shouldn't be doing this. And there's one sitting here staring at me, you know, there's another nail in the coffin. But how serious are you, you know, and what circumstances drive you to that? And sometimes I just forget and just light a cigarette or roll one if I don't have any. But anyway, so I must not be too serious about it. That's sort of my point in that.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
okay.
all right. Let me get on with these cards because
Yeah, go ahead.
We're long in the tooth.
Yes.
And I got to go swimming in the morning.
All right.
Okay, so Swan is all about grace. Now, this card was upside down, but we know the story about, you know, the black swan, the ugly duckling, and that's basically it. That she was an ugly duckling, and so this was a moment of confusion with Swan because she had flown through the dream time, looking for the future. She rested for a moment in the coolness of the pond. This was a moment of confusion, and she knew that she had happened into the dream time by accident. This was her first flight alone, and she was a bit concerned by the dream time landscape. As the swan looked high above Sacred Mountain, she saw the biggest swirling black hole she had ever seen. Dragonfly came floating by, and guess what? The other card is Dragonfly. So, and Dragonfly said, Swan, that is the doorway to the other planes of imagination. I have been guardian of the illusion for many, many, many moons. If you want to enter there, you would have to ask permission and earn the right. Now that's the right side up. And let me go to the contrary part. If you pulled Swan in the reverse, it is warning you that you must acknowledge what you know. What? Acknowledge what you know. So stop denying your feelings and clutching things up. You may be bumping into furniture, forgetting what you are saying in mid-sentence. If so, this is a sign that you are not grounded. Jump in place and hold the top of your head as you do so. This will get you back in touch with the earth and keep you from wandering into dreamy reality that lessens your focus. Baths help, as does going barefoot or doing some gardening. So the upside down one here is the fact that maybe y'all aren't grounded enough in these times. Notice your surroundings and touch the earth with your feet, hands, or both, like at the same time. Focus on one reality or another. Don't go let your mind go wandering off on, focus on something. Especially if you're supposed to. If you are being called to visit the dream time, stop what you are doing and be still. Enter the silence and empty your mind of chatter. Be receptive and open so that the message may enter your consciousness. Last time I did a video, I mentioned that sitting still sometimes is the answer. You know, you just have to sit still and listen to the quiet. And here's Swan saying the same thing about a week later, saying, you know, maybe you should just sit still and focus on one thing. If you are just preoccupied, daydreaming, or spacey, you need to focus on doing some physical activity. Use the reasoning side of your brain to make a list of what you need to do next. And this will stop the clutter in your mind that may be causing you confusion. So now that is Swan upside down, and Dragonfly, I can't believe it. So, you know, here we go again. Dragonfly and Swan are in the same, were in the swan's description. Okay. So now we go to 27, which for those of you who are paying attention, it's 72 backwards. Dragonfly is the illusion. Dragonfly breaks illusions, brings visions of power. No need to prove it, because now is the hour. Know it, believe it, Great Spirit intercedes, feeding you and blessing you and filling all your needs. Dragonfly got so full of himself because who was it that, oh, Coyote tricked Dragonfly into proving that he was all that, you know, so he changed himself into a dragonfly and then couldn't get back. So that's a story of where did dragons go? They became dragonflies, but that was because, you know, their boasting. Hey, look, you know, I'm so good at you know, at changing and magic and so forth. So, but dragonfly is, you know, representative of illusion. Dragonfly is the essence of the winds of change, the messages of wisdom and enlightenment. So, you know, Swan took us into the black hole to find the other side, to find dream time. And Dragonfly is the essence of the winds of change. So you go into the dream time, things are changing. There might be real things going on in the dream time, and you need to pay attention to those things. This elemental world is made up of the tiny spirits of plants and of the elements of air, earth, fire, and water. In essence, this world is full of nature spirits, and Dragonfly represents those. If Dragonfly has flown into your cards today, you may have forgotten to water your plants. On another level, you may need to give thanks to the foods you eat for sustaining your body. On a psychological level, it may be time to break down the illusions that you have held that restrict your actions or ideas. And sometimes we create our own illusions. So you have to step through the illusions to the reality. Now there's, you know, the swan went into the dream time on purpose to find something. Now it might be that you need to see the illusion for what it is, but if you have been lost in an illusion of something or someone or just something, you know, ooh, these medicines are going to cure me, and you end up dying. Of course, you won't learn that lesson until afterwards, but you know, there are things out there that, you know, that are illusions, and we need to take control of ourselves and maybe fix those illusions. So anyway. Those are the cards for tonight.
Cool. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. And Goosebumps just talking to Josh about Milky Way. Yeah. It'll be 3 years come the was it the second or so? Fourth, seventh, second. I think it was the 2nd of July. Isn't it? That Brian passed. Wasn't it? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. 3 years. Yeah. Nothing missing, nothing broken. So says Mary. Be in your ever-present reality. How well said. Well, everybody, thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed all of this. The cards were good to you, and maybe you learned something from all those videos and all those interviews. And next week we'll have the Indian guy, Michael Yellowhand, I guess his name was. And I got a bunch on him, and he presents a lot of good stories. So there you go. So with that, thank you, David, for coming on. Remember, we'll be back next week. And go out and
whether live or Memorex.
That's right. That's our secret. Anyway, next week will be the 4th. Yeah, the 4th of July already. So with that, remember people, go out and do something nice. Don't blow off your fingers and thumbs during 4th of July celebrations with fireworks. Remember, just think of poor Scotty boy, without his pants, and then you won't want to handle fireworks at all.
Yeah, let somebody else throw the fireworks. Let them blow their heads off.
That's right.
No,
That's
I'm
right.
sorry. That's
But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for coming. Remember, go out and be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
see ya.
And there